you need to give me a running start on going back to France and when you did it and what made you want to do it?
What year? I don't remember. 2015. 2015.
Well, say the whole thing.
My husband and I were going on vacation, and my sister looked up, and she knew we were going to France. So she looked up and found the area where the climb to Klombach battle began. And did you introduce me to the women in the area that we met?
No.
Somehow, our guide had women in the area, and they brought us up. They did the research and found the spot as close as they could to where the battle was and where he was killed. And it was called the Battle of the Climb to Klombach.
What's it like to, I'm going to be interviewing a man in a very similar situation who his father died right around the same time your dad did, and about same age. And his mom remarried, and so he has a stepdad. In this case, you have a second dad. What was it like to go back? I mean, this is a loss that you experienced when you were an infant. I mean,
Right, yeah.
well, was it still? What was it like for you to be there?
Well, going to Klombach, and Pat had hooked us up with some of the people that lived there, and they were so, you almost felt guilty because they kept saying, thank you, because the Americans came over and rescued them. And they were all, it made me feel humble because they were so thankful. And they did the research. They gave us a man who became our guide, and he did more research, and that's the only way we found out exactly the spot where he was killed. And when you go over there, those people are so grateful to the Americans. It humbles you that, we act crazy sometimes, but they're so grateful to the Americans, and that was a real surprise to us. And they found the guides and found the spot and did everything, and they keep saying thank you for our freedom.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you been? And you've been to Epinal, I think. And what all have you done there?
I returned to France in 2014. It was the 70th anniversary of the liberation of several of the small towns along the Rhine, in the Vosges, and we had a most amazing experience. There were parades and celebrations, masses, dinners. All the children were allowed to be off from school, and they waved French and American flags. All the shops were decorated with memorabilia of the American Army. They saved everything, every Coke bottle, every Hershey wrapper, every helmet they found, every bullet they found. We were amazed. We had no idea. And again, everywhere we went, we heard merci, thank you.
Yeah.
Kissing and hugging us. And
They just go up to Americans and say thank you. They're so appreciative. You feel humbled. You can't describe it.
And a lot of Americans don't know that about the French. That's why it's so nice for y'all to be able to testify to that. It's great. Where all did you go?
we visited Saint-Dié, Saint-Die, as our soldiers say, and we visited Epinal American Military Cemetery, and that too was just a heart-rendering experience to see all those diagonal lines of graves. And we had the opportunity to meet a most amazing woman. Jocelyn Papillard Brescia. And she was instrumental in forming the association U.S. Memory Grande et France. And I understand now that there might be about 3,000 members in that association. And they research each name of the American soldiers, not only at Epinal, but in all the American cemeteries in France. And then they make an attempt to find the families. And in some cases, the association has actually brought descendants of the soldiers to see their loved ones' graves, because through their lives they never had the resources in order to do so. And so we have been privileged to remain in touch with Jocelyn and with the association. In 2015, we brought Jocelyn to the United States to the 103rd reunion in Texas, and she spoke to our group. And I think that they were very impressed too, that here are all these people in France who love our soldiers and want to make sure that they're not forgotten. And you know, they say that as long as there's memory, a loved one is not forgotten, and that's what they do. It was a privilege.
So, I want to go back to your father and mother. Your mother is buried next to Dennis, your dad, at the cemetery, and Jim's ashes are on their grave. That is a really interesting dynamic. Sometimes when people remarry, you've got a husband who, the new husband maybe never knew this other man, and might always feel a sense of competition, or you don't love me as much, or I'm a replacement, and then the idea that his wife wants to be buried next to her husband, that would be very controversial in a case. But in this case, it sounds like Jim really accepted that she was so devoted to him. Would you say that? I mean, am I right on that?
Well, they knew each other before. They dated, and my mom and dad ate out with Jim, and he had a girlfriend at the time, or several, I don't know. So they had clicked back in the States. So then when they shipped out, they were shipped out together. And in the same division. And it was remarkable. You know, they had these same experiences. And like I say, when my dad was hit, Jim ran over to him because they fell one side, the side was hit. So Jim ran over and said to my dad, "You lucked out, you get to go home to your beautiful wife and baby." And he didn't find out till later that he didn't make it. And that's when he more or less, you can't say gave up on life. I don't know how to put it. How would,
That's good.
yeah, that he
There was,
gave up.
I'm sorry, there was never any question that our mother would be buried next to Dennis. The lot was there, and our father participated fully in the burial. And there was never any question when Jim died that his ashes would be buried with them. Because truly, we call them our two dads.
Yeah.
Now, I never knew Dennis, but I feel like he's a father too to me. And Diane certainly feels that Jim was her father as well. And so we just had a little plaque made up for Jim that rests between the two graves. And so the three of them are there.
They're all together again. And that makes me feel good. Right? You feel good. They're all together.
Well, you know, that says a lot about Jim, your dad, that he didn't let that erode his sense of confidence. That his, you know, that she loved another. I mean, because he saw her like that. That's good for him.
Jim named his youngest son after Dennis, our little brother Dennis, who has since passed away. So that was a testament to how he felt about Dennis, that his buddy.
Yeah, they were the two Chicago boys. They were. Yeah,
That's a remarkable story.
and we were blessed to, well, know them as much as we can. And I appreciate that I had Jim for a dad. And then, of course, like we said, he became a Chicago policeman. So again, he saw the seamy side. He always seemed to get in and see the seamy side of life. But he never forgave himself. Because when like I say, when I was driving him to the doctor,
You took that.
I know. But it's just, how could he
Yeah, it
carry
evidently
that, how
struck
could
you.
he carry that burden so long?
He did. Wow, what a sacrifice. Not only sacrifice on the battlefield, but sacrifice with what you carry, what
Right.
you've been saying.
What you bring home.
All of them.
And do.
All of them. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? You thought of so many wonderful things to share. And I'm glad you brought up with Jocelyn. And glad you talked about bringing her over here, because I'm going to use some pictures of her here with your voiceover.
I'll think of it after you shut down the camera.
Right. I'll turn it back
I
on.
can give you correct dates too, so maybe, please give me a little editorial control, because I don't want to be
Oh, yeah, right.
on camera saying the wrong date or something.
Oh, yeah,
You
yes,
know,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We can even sub in, go over voiceover and sub into like a little...
Sounds great, yeah. The only thing would be would you want me to read one of Jim's letters?
Yeah, oh,
to
that's right,
Lorraine?
that's right. Oh, please do. Yes, read the letter when he writes her after.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
when after my dad was killed, yes. It's touching.
4th of September, 45, Mannheim, Germany.
Let me get this a little closer.
My voice.
Yes, please, go ahead.
4th September, Mannheim, Germany. My dear Lorraine, just received your most appreciated letter of 22nd August and sure was most happy to hear from you and know that all is well with you. As for me, I am the same as ever. Yes, Lorraine, now that it's all over the world, I know that I won't be sent to the CBT. Don't know just how long I'll be here in Mannheim, but don't believe I'll be included in on the occupational troops. As it is now, I'm completely in charge of this POW stockade, as all the rest of the guys left for home this past month. Have me a bunch of green troops that don't know what the score is, so until they catch on, I'll be around. Have a new job, now you know, or did I tell you in my last letter? I'm now the acting top kick of this organization, and believe me, it's quite a job. Seems like I am never finished working. Reports, and more reports, that's all I'm doing. Never thought that I'd ever be a first sergeant, and that's for sure. In about 2 weeks or so, I'll get my additional stripes. May as well make the dough as long as I'm doing the job. $175 per month ain't hay when it's all clear. That girl you mentioned in your letter didn't love me as much as you thought, Lorraine. About 3 months after I left the USA, she was married to some sailor. Guess she was just out to get herself a man, and I had her pretty well figured out from the start. That's why I just laughed at her when she pulled that love stuff on me. I did like her a lot though, and it hurt when I received the news of her marriage. Oh well, c'est la guerre. Glad you got all of Babe's belongings. I was going to take it and send it all to you, but the boys at the aid station said no. As long as we're on the subject again, Lorraine, I want you to know that we did as much as possible to try and save Babe. Even sent a messenger back through sniper fire to tell the aid station to have the blood plasma hot and ready. But Babe, that was my dad's nickname. Even sent a messenger back through sniper fire to tell the aid station to have blood plasma hot and ready, but Babe died on the way there. We carried him all the way back to Klimbach, though. Chicago, as I didn't want him laying out there. So help me, Lorraine, when Babe died, something in me died too. I wasn't any good as a soldier anymore. Babe and I were too close to each other. I cried myself to sleep that night and was sick for weeks after. Sergeant Bing and Private Jackson were the other two with me. Bing is from Chicago, and I believe he's on his way home now, so he may drop in and see you. Believe the whole 103rd will be home this month sometime. Well, Lorraine, this will have to be it for now. Write more often, will you? Don't wait for me to write before you drop me a line. I'm always anxious to hear from you, you know. When I get home, I intend to take you out on a spree if it's okay with you. What say, let's make it a date, huh? Bye now. As ever, Jimmy.
That was that was at the end of August of 45,
This was September 4th of 45.
right? So,
So,
Japan
yeah,
has
9
already
months
surrendered.
after.
And,
Yeah, right.
why was he called Babe?
I think because he was the baby of the
Yeah,
family.
he was
We
the
didn't
youngest.
say that, did
Yeah,
we, on
he was the
camera?
youngest of the family.
Dennis was called Babe because he was the youngest in his family, and that name just stuck.
Yeah.
And he accepted
That
it
was a nickname, yeah.
because he signed.
I think they thought of it not as much a baby, but as a hunk, a babe.
Like Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was, because he was the last one in his family. Last.
Where you mentioned it, your mom's family was Italian. Did they come in like most Italians came in the late 19th century? And was her mother born in America, or was your grandmother born in America?
No, well, if you'd like, there are pictures right up on the
Oh
wall.
yes, well you can tell me about it, then we'll pull them
I
up.
will. Our Italian grandmother came in the early 20th century with our grandfather, and she was only 15 years old when they were married. And they proceeded to have 8 children. Unfortunately, 2 of them died as children. Our mother, Lorraine, actually was a twin, and her sister, Edith, died at the age of 16 months old, probably from pneumonia. And then her little brother, Freddie, died when he was 7 years old, and they believe that that was probably polio. So, our mother had a very hard life. Her father died when she was only 9 years old. And at that time, there was no welfare for widows. There was nothing. And our grandmother went to the priest and asked for help, but she was denied. And she was denied in a very nasty fashion, which took us a long time to come to terms with. The priest told her, "It's not my fault you had all those children." So it kept us away from the church for a while, but you have to forgive. So.
And then how about Sabbath? Is that the name? Sabbath?
Yes.
Oh, Sabbath?
What's that family's history in America?
C0006. Yeah, they were Zabowski, and my grandpa changed it to Zabbath because he came over and he was a piano tuner, and he wanted to get the Jewish people, especially, to tune their pianos. They were richer, so he shortened it to Sabbath, and sometimes would even tell, depending on what nationality he was working with, Zabo. He was a shyster.
Perhaps you better not put that on.
That's fine.
No, but he needed to have the work
Sure.
to tune the pianos, and that's how he did it. He kind of altered his name so he fit in with that.
Diane's grandfather not only tuned pianos, but he played piano.
Oh, yeah, he did piano.
And he taught Diane how to play. And he would come to our little apartment on Sheffield Avenue and give her piano lessons. So,
Yeah, we had a little 4-room apartment, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living room. And we had 8 people living in there.
Both
Yeah.
grandmothers,
Both grandmothers,
4 children, and our mother and father.
yeah.
It taught us how to adjust.
My mother took in anybody that, couldn't, ran into some, like Grandma DeMichael, what happened when we got, did we get her? Yeah, money was an issue of having a place.
She also took in our father's brother, Bob, who served in the Rangers. And he served at Normandy. He set up the spikes on Normandy, on Utah Beach, before the soldiers arrived. And I think he was harmed by the war as well. He never really functioned properly when he returned home either. But he lived with us for a while too, because he had nowhere else to go. So our mother was indeed a caretaker.
She was such a good-hearted person. She never said, I don't ever remember her saying anything bad about anybody. And I think she just appreciated what she had because, a lot of people didn't have at least even what we had. But it was a 2-bedroom, living room, kitchen, and we had 8 people living with us.
This grandfather that you mentioned who changed his name, was he born in Poland and immigrated here like your Italian grandparents?
Yes, and we called him a shyster because he changed the pronunciation. If he would go to
You told it.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So he used it, but pronounced it differently.
And where was he born?
In Poland. So
Do you know how old he was when he came to the United States? Did he go to New York or Chicago
I
first?
don't know. That. But we called him. He'd like to call everybody a shyster. The kids, they'll do something, and he'd laugh and he'd say, "Look at that little shyster there."
We're the children of immigrants on all sides. Are Irish and Italian and Norwegian and Polish.
Yeah.
That's the greatest generation, was immigrants.
Yeah.
We need more of them.
And it had to be hard because they would leave their family. The younger people would leave and come over here, and I couldn't do it. It spoiled, I guess.
I think that's it.
Yes, I
we've
thank you
covered
so much.
everything.
I'm glad you went back to get that too, because that's such a big part of it. Can you imagine, you know how long America's been nativists and not wanting immigrants. Imagine fighting World War II without all the people who came in the late 19th and early 20th century, and all the kids of those people who fought like your dads did in the war. Take them off the picture of American population and their willingness to go and fight.
Both our Irish and Italian immigrant families did face discrimination when they came here. The Italians, many times there were ads that said Italians need not apply. I know certainly my mother felt discrimination in school, and unfortunately she had to leave school when she was in high school to help support her widowed mother. But even the Irish families faced discrimination when they arrived here in Chicago. We forget about that. And the Italians were, they had to turn over if they had a ham radio, they had to turn over their ham radio because they might be working with Mussolini. So we never even think of that now because Italians have been able to absorb into the fabric of American society. And it just would be wonderful if everyone was given the opportunity to absorb based on their own merit. I don't know, that doesn't have anything to do
No.
with this.
I'm glad to hear it. I'll share it with my
I say,
students.
and what are Italians known for? I always throw this at my husband when he's, amore. Yeah.
Super. Thank y'all for this interview. Really,
Thank
it was wonderful, wonderful. So many wonderful nuggets in there. I was just thinking, a little while ago, I was thinking I should do an episode on them. I mean, y'all are a great 30-minute.
Well, we'll be about 1.5 minutes on the final screen.